Guys, well, today Dead by Daylight Behavior has announced a developer update for this mid-season PTB, this mid-chapter coming out, and there's a whole lot going on, so we're gonna get into it in just a moment. Now, for those who don't know, we do stream throughout the week on Twitch at twitch.tv/Parklis, so you can come on by, say hey, let us know how you like it, how you hate it, and just anything in general. So for this developer update, yeah, there's a whole lot going on. We got model updates, we got Trickster updates, so let's just jump right in. So first thing, it is time for another developer update, a series of posts detailing what we're working on and what you can expect in the future. A quick heads up before we get started, or focus on this post is to explain what is currently being worked on and made available in the upcoming mid chapter. That said, the second half of this post is going to be very technical. You have been warned. Now, with the Trickster, now that it has been a few months since the launch of the All Kill chapter, it's time for the Trickster's post-launch review. This is something we do for all new killers once they have had a few months to settle into the game. Reviewing the data, the Trickster tends to fall on the lower end of the roster, even among the top few percent of Trickster players. So we feel comfortable making some improvements to him to bring him up a few spots. Now, this is something I've personally looked forward to because I love the Trickster idea. I think it was just implemented poorly. So hopefully these things will help bring him up to snuff. Now, the number of knives required to damage a survivor has been reduced to 6, down from 8. The delay between before laceration decay starts has been reduced to 10 seconds, down from 20. And the rate of decay for laceration has been increased to 0.3 seconds while running and 0.4 seconds all other times. This has been raised up from 0.235 seconds while running and 0.175 seconds while doing anything else. So together, these changes should make chases quicker and more interesting. Now, the Trickster will be able to down survivors much faster, but a good survivor may be able to break line of sight, or LOS, for long enough to start decaying their laceration meter. Additionally, we've reduced the amount of laceration lost for hitting a survivor with basic attack from 4 to 3. We've all accidentally ran into a survivor while throwing knives before. So now you can swing because you're going to lose 1 less laceration. And it takes 2 less laceration to down them. So if they're at 5, you bring them down to 3, down by 3, they're at 2. It only takes 4 more hits. Next, we looked at main event. Main event would activate fairly frequently, but the long activation time often meant that the survivor could break line of sight before you had the chance to start throwing knives again, making it difficult to use at times. With that in mind, we've made the following changes. Main event activation time has been shortened to half a second, down from 1.5 seconds. The number of knives required to activate main event has been increased to 30, and increased the amount of time you can hold main event to 30 seconds. This has been up from 10 seconds, so you can hold it for longer before you need to activate. With these changes, we aim to make main event less frequent but more meaningful when it does activate. By increasing the time it can be held before it must be activated, you'll have more freedom to choose when to activate it and be able to use it more effectively when you do thanks to the lowered activation time. You still can't hold it forever, but at least this is a step in the right direction. Last but certainly not least, it could sometimes be difficult to tell when your blades are hitting a survivor. To improve the feedback, we have added hit indicators that appear when survivor was hit. Now, with these base changes out of the way, we also needed to look into a few of his add-ons. Most add-ons are behaving as expected, but there are a few outliers that fail significantly above or below the rest of what is needed to adjust. So the Melodis murder, with the number of knives required to injure reduced to 6, leaving this add-on as would be a little too much. So with that in mind, we've reworked this add-on completely to give increased reload speed at lockers instead. So instead of reducing the amount of lacerations needed by 1, you just can reload faster. Fizz Spin Soda, previously it granted the effect of having already thrown 3 knives. This one is slight tweak. The bonus has been decreased to the effect of 2 knives. The initial rate bonus granted before was a little too high, which made it an obvious choice every time. For those who don't know what that means, he starts throwing knives faster the more knives you throw. So this and basically said as soon as you start throwing knives, it's considered you've already thrown 3 knives, so the speed and rate at which you throw knives becomes that much faster, quicker. Now it's just down to by 2 knives, which is not a huge change, but it is still big enough to notice. Now the iridescent photo card, now when a survivor is 2 or fewer blade hits away from the maximum they will be exposed, this will give you a longer window to work with. I believe it was just 1 away from maximum before. Now with the death throws compilation, this is another one that needed to change due to the lower laceration meter to prevent things from getting out of hand. Now death throws compilation will replenish the Trickster's knives when main event ends. I think this is really cool, because you could get down to 1 or 0 knives, have main event, use main event, and now you're back up to 1,000,000. So that saves time from having to go to lockers. The problem is it does take more knives to get main event activated, but we'll see how it plays out. Lucky Blade and Waiting for Your Watch. These add-ons didn't see much use before. They have been reworked with a completely new effect. Hitting a survivor with Blade during main event will extend main event's duration, which I think is really cool. Last but certainly not least, we reviewed the Trickster's perks and made some changes to both No Way Out and Hex Crowd Control. Now with No Way Out, this perk can do quite a bit, but it can also be very inconsistent. If you're missing a token or 2, or the survivors are preoccupied when the gates are first powered, it's possible they'll completely miss the effect. With that in mind, here's what we have. Increase the base time of the perk to 12 seconds. Increase the bonus time for each token to 6, 9, 12 seconds. The perk only activates whenever a survivor interacts with the gate for the first time, and you will receive a loud noise notification when they do. These changes increase the potential maximum time to 46 seconds, from 46 seconds to 60 seconds, and ensures that will have a notable effect. For those who don't know what No Way Out is, basically every time you do things against the survivor, you get a token, and that causes the exit gate lever to be locked for what was 46 seconds once all the generators have been finished. So now people are actually going to notice it, because people can hold off touching the doors or whatever, but now as soon as they touch the doors, you'll know. Especially for those people who are waiting for, let's say they're the last person alive and you close the hatch on them, but they weren't looking for the hatch. They were waiting at one of the gates to wait for the hatch to be closed so they could start opening the gate. This is going to stop them, and it's going to let you know exactly where they are. So this is going to be really cool. I think it's going to see a lot more play. I'm going to be playing with it more. Now with Hex Crowd Control, a simple adjustment, but one that should have a big impact. Increase the time a window stays blocked from 10, 12, and 14 seconds to 14, 17, and 20 seconds. So now 20 seconds instead of 14 seconds, it's going to start blocking the windows. Again, you probably won't see it in play much, but it does change it. Survivor visual update. You've had your eyes on our social media for a while, or the many places we've reposted. You may have seen some early previews for Survivor model updates. These visual updates are part of the realm beyond our ongoing effort to improve the visuals of the game. Some of you are dying to know when you'll see these updated models in game. You won't need to wait much longer, as the updated models will appear in the mid-chapter update. With that said, we've seen some people ask why. When the game first launched, a lot of things, characters included, featured a completely different art style. You can still see some traces in the original Survivors. Look closely at Dwight's shirt and you'll notice a watercolor effect that isn't used anymore. As the time went on, we moved towards a more realistic style with more detailed textures and refined models. This left some of the more recent Survivors looking great, while others started feeling a little outdated. Our goal with these changes is to not change the characters significantly, but rather bring them up to date. We've been playing with these Survivors for years, and some of us have grown very attached to them. Some of you a little too much. We've seen that art you've made. This is part of the reason why we've been sharing previews for so long. We've been combing through your feedback to make sure that the updated versions of each Survivor are as similar as possible to the ones you know and love. If you've been losing sleep over David King's smaller brow, you can rest easy. We've gone back and made some adjustments. With that said, here's a quick taste of what you can expect. In case you've missed the many teasers, please keep in mind that these previews do not include animation, so expressions like Ace's trademark smirk won't appear here, but don't worry, he still got it. Note, these are work in progress images, and changes may have been made since. We got the Meg update And then David, Claudette, and Nia. Nia just looks like she has to like poop or something. She's got a really interesting face. Anyway, they've updated more, which you'll see on the PTB if you haven't checked it out already. Actually, I think all the survivors got an update. Updated tutorials. Your first steps into the fog can be scary and unforgiving, so we've been working on improvements to the new player experience across the board. In this upcoming mid-chapter, you'll find a pair of brand new tutorials. One for killer, one for survivor. We've learned a lot about what you want in a tutorial, so we now cover more than the old ones. Each tutorial also takes place in a single continuous level rather than a series of mini levels cut together. This way everything flows together like a real match, just more controlled so things don't get out of hand. As a heads up, we have been seeing reports of preferences being reset, such as perks and cosmetics, for Dwight and Trapper after playing the tutorial. This bug does not revert any progress, but it is something the team is aware of and will be resolved in the near future. Also, all killers and survivors outfits and perks. But anyway, now a tutorial is great and all, but it doesn't quite compare to hands-on experience. Before you jump into an online match, you can now practice in offline bot matches. This will let you try out everything you've learned in a real-world scenario without the stress of other people watching. Bot matches are already available on the live version of the game. Click the Getting Started button on the main menu to check them out, which I highly recommend. It's really cool. You'll play as Dwight for Survivor and Trapper for Killer, neither of which have perks, but it's actually a pretty good assessment of an actual game. Finally, we've added beginner tooltips to the menus. The game has grown a lot over the years, so there can be a lot to take in if you're just starting out. Hovering over most buttons will let you know what they do and help you find your way around. If you're already a seasoned veteran and find the idea of a tooltip describing something insulting, don't worry, you can turn these off in the settings. Also, some more setting stuff. HUD improvements. One of the most common requests we've received following our previous changes was the ability to customize the HUD. With full customization is still just a twinkle in a designer's eye, we have added the ability to toggle on and off some non-crucial parts of the HUD. In the settings menu, you'll find new options to toggle. The killer hook counter. I don't know how that is considered a non-crucial part, but so be it. Score events. I can understand why people would say that's non-crucial, but for somebody like me, I like to know what's going on in the game. And player names in match. As a streamer, I like to also know what that is. Now, if there's a way to mask the names instead of remove them, actually, I don't know. I guess that's the same thing. So that may be that would be good for streamers, like the bigger ones, so that they can actually stop dropping lobbies just because they see a TTV in the name or something like that. And they'll just play more games and play against them, and they won't know who they're playing against. But that's in the HUD. They'll probably still see it in the lobby, right? Yeah, because player names in match, so they'll see it in the lobby, but they won't see it in game. So again, that doesn't make a huge difference in my opinion. None of these, again, it's non-crucial, but none of these really mattered, so I don't know why this was put in. Nobody asked. All right, game health palette hits. In this mid chapter, we aim to address some of the most frequent and annoying issues you can run into while playing. One of the things topping that list is getting hit through a pallet well after you've dropped it. Before we get into the solution, we'll run through why this happens in the first place. The first thing to note is latency, the time it takes to send and receive information to and from other players. Latency is a fact of life in any online game. It takes time for information to travel across the country to the players you're playing against, or the server you're connected to. This delay means what you see and what others see can differ slightly depending on the connection strength and distance from the server. We do what we can to reduce latency as much as possible, but it's impossible to eliminate it entirely. So how does this apply to pallets? Simply put, each player sees something different. The survivor sees himself throwing the pallet before they get hit. The killer sees himself hitting the survivor before the pallet is dropped. To give you a better idea of what this looks like, take a look at the simplified diagram. So survivor throws the pallet, server gets the information. The killer does the swing. The killer sees the death, and the survivor gets hit. Maybe that's stun. See, their diagram is terrible, but survivor sends information, killer sends information, server sides with the killer and sends back information, and then goes finally to the survivor and sends back information. In this example, the survivor drops the pallet first, but the killer doesn't see that until they've already swung their weapon, which is here. As a result, the killer hits the survivor, and then he gets stunned. So swings weapon, killer hits survivor, and then gets stunned. This isn't bad when both players have low latency, but you can look very strange and unfair when latencies are high. So what's going to change? Simply put, the server will become the judge. When you either drop a pallet or swing your weapon, that gets into the server. If the server receives a hit before a stun, the killer hits the survivor as they normally would. But if the survivor receives the stun before the hit is rejected. This is similar to how hit validation works now. The new diagram would look like this. Survivor vaults, server timer, killer hit, grabs, killer gets stunned. As you can see, the server receives the pallet stun first and then knows to reject the killer's hit as a result. That said, we have not changed how the mechanic of pallet stuns work. The pallet will still need to be approximately 50% of the way down before it stuns the killer. Now with the game health grabs, on the flip side, we've all been there. You sneak up to a survivor for the grab and nothing happens. You hold your hand out menacingly and watch as they run away. Why does this happen? A lot like pallet hits, it comes down to latency. Each person sees something different. The killer sees themselves grab the survivor before they can run away, and the survivor sees themselves run away before the killer can grab them. When the server receives the grab request from the killer, it notices that the survivor is no longer there, so it cancels the grab. Again, here's a diagram of the visuals. I'm not going over this. So what's the solution? The solution for this is much more complicated, so it will come in two parts. A long-term solution and a temporary solution to bridge the gap. The temporary solution: whenever a grab is rejected by the server, the killer will instead swing their weapon automatically and be granted challenge progress and blood points, or challenge progress and blood points as if they had successfully grabbed the survivor. This way you won't lose out on a hit because the grab was canceled, and you'll have an easier time completing archive challenges that require you to interrupt survivors. So now here's the diagram, what it would look like. Survivor runs, killer grabs, but because the survivor ran, they get hit. The permanent solution: we will rework the way interactions and interrupts work from the ground up with dedicated servers in mind. Our current system has not been significantly changed since the days where the killer was the server and had full authority over grabs, as the survivors were connected directly to them. And with that, we've reached the end of this month's developer update. If you made it this far, give yourself a pat on the back. That was a lot of reading. Way to go. The changes mentioned in this post will be available in the PTB or player test build, which starts today, the 7th. As always, we look forward to hearing from you and what you think. This is gonna be good. I like it. Hopefully this will make hits less silly, except of course for Hunter's hatchets, who the hitbox will always look silly. HUD improvements nobody asked for. This is dumb. Updated tutorials I like. Hopefully new players will stop being useless. The new survivor imagery works, their visuals, I like it. They've basically gone over every survivor, so like even Ashley, it's some good stuff. Trickster I'm super excited for. So again, let me know what you guys think. Leave some comments down below. Also, you guys know how YouTube works. If you liked what you see, a like is appreciated. If you want to see more, make sure you subscribe. And that's all I got. So until next time, if nobody told you, we love you guys very much. And remember, stay safe out there in the fog.